to the company marching to the beat of their own drums.
Handmade British products are seen all over the world as, get this, they're seen as cool.
Across the length and breadth of Britain, men and women are making all manner of things. From high-tech factories supplying kitchen cupboard staples to handcrafted creations that are lavished with love. And some that are designed to take a right old beating. Drums are one of the world's oldest musical instruments, but when it comes to British drums, there's a new kid in town. The British Drum Corps, based in Stockport, Greater Manchester. The firm was founded by Keith, a former cabinet maker turned master drum maker, and Al, a stand-up comic and passionate drummer.
I met Keith about 7 years ago now. We just clicked, and the drums he made for me were incredible, were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. He says, I think the people I'm working with now, I think it might come to an end soon. So I said, without thinking about it, I said, well, if that happens, you call me and we'll go into business together. I don't know how serious I was when I said that to him. I mean, the thing is, we never had a plan, but just because you haven't got a plan doesn't mean you don't have a clue. And it's been, without sounding like an idiot, it's been a wild ride.
In just 5 years, the firm's drums have earned a global reputation.
We've got distribution in Australia, China, Japan, Singapore, North America, the whole of Europe.
And are coveted by some of the best drummers in the world.
Numerous artists such as Iron Maiden, Kasabian, Charlatans, The Blossoms, our local band from Stockport. Joe's actually our first artist that we signed.
I think the drums speak for themselves. Everyone sort of wants that vintage kit sound, and you can definitely get that with these drums. I think the look of them is great, and I know I shouldn't say that, do you know what I mean? It should be all about the sound and stuff, but nah, I think they look amazing.
The look and sound is thanks to a team of craftsmen and women that put their heart and soul into every drum.
It's almost like an art studio. It's not just a factory where you come and there's a production line and it starts here and it finishes there. Every single person, every single process of this has a real deep passion.
The firm makes dozens of different models, from military marching drums to powerful basses. Plus the best-selling Merlin Snare drum. The Merlin's made of a wooden shell with a synthetic head stretched across either end. Coiled wires across the bottom give the snare its distinctive rasp. It takes 12 hours to craft each one, and the process starts with a shell.
So this is the very first stage of our drum building. This is our shell preparation. We start off with raw veneer. We have everything from apple to Zebrano wood. Currently we stock about 20 different varieties, from domestic veneers to exotic.
The choice of wood isn't just about aesthetics. Each one has its own acoustic properties, and Keith knows which woods to combine to create the best sound.
I like to say that the lighter the wood in colour, the brighter the sound. The darker the wood in colour, the darker the sound.
The Merlin combines maple, birch, and an outer layer of black tulip wood.
Maple is a very warm, beautiful, soft-sounding wood. Birch is a very bright, crisp, clean-sounding wood. Together, those mixed is a very versatile, very popular snare drum.
The thin sheets, called veneers, are just 0.6mm thick. Two of them are combined to create a piece of plywood that can be moulded into the shape of the drum shell.
So what we do is a technique called cross-lamination. What we want to produce is a two-ply piece of plywood, and what we want is the top piece to have the grain running horizontal and the bottom piece to have the grain running vertical. And this makes it a lot more flexible and a lot more durable. If we were to put this in the mould, it's very brittle and will crack.
Each piece of veneer is cut by hand before they're stitched together with tape, glued and then pressed.
We try to do everything by hand as much as possible. In this process, we don't use any fancy saws. We use the humble Stanley knife. You'll see the guys cutting it, and what that does is it gives it a much cleaner join for when they're stitching it together.
Pressing the layers together with glue creates a very strong and flexible piece of plywood.
Now this press applies 90 kilograms of pressure per square centimetre, and the top and bottom plats are heated to 45 degrees Celsius. Now this is the only part of the process where any heat is used in the making of any of the drums, and it's just to speed up the glue setting.
After the plywood is fully cured, it's time for shell building.
Every drum starts with the shell. It's the fundamental part of a drum. The shell has got to be perfect. We can't have any splits in it. It's got to be perfectly round. It can't be warping.
Unlike most commercial drum makers, the firm uses a cold press method to shape 20 layers of plywood into a shell. And it's up to master shell builder Duncan to painstakingly cut and fit each layer by hand.
What Duncan doesn't know about shell building isn't worth knowing. He's probably one of the best shell builders in the world.
I'm just trying to take the right amount off from the top and the bottom. So in this case, I'm taking more off the bottom just to get it a nice, clean fit. So it's just really a process of elimination. I'm just trying to take off the tiniest bits to get it to be the perfect fit.
The plywood is trimmed down bit by bit and tried in the mould until Duncan hears the telltale click.
That's the click, so that tells me that it's exactly the right size. If it was too big, then it wouldn't go in or it would snap. If it was too small, it wouldn't click. So now it's ready for gluing.
A thin layer of glue between the plywood layers bonds them together, permanently fixing them to the shape of the shell.
We don't have a machine that does that. It's an art. We've got to feel the amount of glue that we put on, and the guys know exactly how much glue to put on so that we get the perfect click, the perfect fit.
Mass-produced shells use heat and extreme pressure and are moulded in as little as 20 minutes, whereas these handmade cold-pressed shells take a full 24 hours. Allowing the wood to gently acclimatise as the glue sets prevents it from swelling or warping later, which would alter the tone of the drum.
I really enjoy drum building. I like working with wood, and I like building a musical instrument that someone's going to save up for and then cherish. So that's the last ply gone in. It'll now sit like that for 24 hours so that the glue has a chance to completely go off. And then I'll take it out and take it to the next section.
So once the shell's been made, it comes through here to which we call the drum construction. This is where it basically stops looking like a lampshade and starts looking like a drum.
The shell is cut down to precisely the right size before the edges are sanded on this humongous homemade sanding table, lovingly called the Sander of Doom.
There's no such thing as a sander for sanding drum shells, so one of our guys found an old floor polishing machine, and we basically ripped the motor out and made the machine ourselves. So we make most of the stuff ourselves here, like the jigs, the sander doom, the bearing edge cutter. We've got to be quite resourceful because there's no such thing as machines for drum building. So we've got to make our own benches, even our own picture frames, jigs, router, tables, bits, everything you can think of that you can't buy off the shelf. We even make our own bins, yeah.
Once sanded, holes are marked out and drilled that will later hold the drum's hardware, air vents and name badge. Next up, it's time to cut the bearing edge into the shell. It's one of the most crucial stages of making a drum. The bearing edge is what the drum's head rests on, so its shape can make a massive difference to a drum sound.
This part is one of the most important parts in the factory. It's a very skillful job, takes years of experience, and it's got to be really accurate. The bearing edge cutter is basically, it's kind of like a routing machine mounted upside down. It has two blades that spin round, which cut the edge very accurately to within 1 millimetre tolerance. This stage is so important because it determines how much shell to head, drum head contact we have. drastically changes the sound of it if it's not right, and done correctly, it makes such a wonderful tone. Once the bearing edge has been cut, we cut 2 little slots on the side, which is called the snare bed. This is 1.8mm deep, and it's got to be done by eye. There's no machine does this. There's only 2 people in the factory that actually do this. It's a process we're very proud of. It gives every single individual snare drum a unique sound, no two alike, which is, I think, is a beautiful thing.
Next up, it's time to protect all that hard work in the finishing room. Each Merlin is given 2 coats of clear satin lacquer to protect and enhance the woodwork.
It seals the drum, but it also lets you see that the lovely wood grain still shows through, and it still has that natural look, even whilst making it deeper. It's the best of both worlds, really, with the lacquers.
Although not all the designs are as understated.
All the sparkle finishes, all the glitter finishes are my favourites. It's the finish I have on my own kit, what I think every drummer should really have. But I'm biased, I'm always biased too. Every day is something new, something creative, something inspiring, really. I couldn't wish for something better to do, if I'm honest.
After it's dried, it's on to the assembly room.
So this is the final stages of our Merlin snare drum, where we transform it from a wooden shell to a musical instrument. Here we fasten the lugs on, which allows the bolt to fasten the skin down and allow us to tune it. Unless you're a drummer, not many people realise you actually tune a drum. Tuning a drum is an absolute art, and there's no rules, there's no scientific fact on how to tune a drum. Because we produce so many drums here, we've had to invent a quick way of tuning them, what gets them very quickly into tune. We also fit the snare strainer, which is a wire mechanism on the bottom of the snare, which gives the snare drum its famous buzz. We also fit all our badges and the Merlin vent badge on the back. The vent allows the drum to breathe, stops all any moisture getting in, and allows it to basically sing. It also adds volume to the drum as well. The badge is kind of the final thing. I'm very particular about the badges being straight and everything. I always say it's like the angel at the front of a Rolls Royce. You know, it's our logo, it's our pride. It means it's basically the company.
Each drum is thoroughly checked before it leaves the factory, but the real test is what it sounds like on stage. For that, they turn to some of the best in the business, and Kasabian Zine Matthews has been involved right from the start.
It's kind of a dream for a drummer to be involved with a drum company making them. I clearly knew that Keith was like a master of the trade, and the drums that he creates, the designs are incredible. The drums speak beautifully on stage and in studio. Part of my job really is to sort of take the drums out on the road, putting them on a big stage with Kasabian, running through a massive PA. I also do jazz gigs and such when I'm home with friends, so I get to take the drums into pubs and stuff, and I just constantly give Keith feedback, so every angle and every part of the instrument is covered.
The team believes it's this attention to detail that puts their drums amongst some of the best in the world.
We really believe in manufacturing here in the UK, that it's possible that you can build high-end things here. And that is, it doesn't necessarily even mean expensive. That means really, really excellently made. You can do it here in the UK.
And for former cabinet maker Keith, turning raw materials into world-class instruments is the realisation of a lifelong dream.
Combining 2 passions, wood and drums, it's a match made in heaven. It's a dream come true for me. For me to stand here today and see what we've created in under 5 years I feel really blessed.